Okay, so this is the next part. All I did was those red areas and added a bit of yellow around the forehead. You might see me sometimes zoning out where I kinda lost what I'm doing. This happens to me sometime while I do stuff. So you also might see me change my subsurface, my roughness, my lights, just to change the environment of what I'm used to seeing to get a fresh eye on things, which I would also recommend you guys to do. Sometimes also take a break from the computer screen. Don't look at your artwork or any artwork in general and come back. You will have a fresh eye and you will figure out what's wrong and what's working. Adding in more red around my ear. Adding more yellow around the areas where I felt it kinda become more red after painting in red areas. So I started painting in grey for desaturating my layers. We have discussed this in the last videos. So what this gives me, it gives me a bit peach or red tone. It's kind of like powdering, not powdering, but using a powder in your actual face. So this gives me more of a red tone still, instead of using a filter to desaturate my area, which will just give you a gray tone instead of the one we are getting right now. Adding more of those desaturation around the forehead. I kinda zoned out again, so try to change my lights. So this is what I discussed in the last one. The lips are not completely red. So that's what I'm adding, a bit purple or pinkish tone. Then adding in more red around the bottom area where I felt the border is not completely being driven by the red. One more thing about the lips border, try to not have a hard transition between your lips to your skin, both in your sculpt and both in your textures, giving it more natural look. Trying out new lights as well and more subsurface, making sure it looks good in many situations. So now I want to add those yellow specific areas around the wrinkle. So you might see the reference has a bit yellow tone around the wrinkles where the eyelid folds on each other. adding a bit yellow around the border of the lips and blending those in. So here I was trying to add those spots that we have on our faces. I was using a brown color in first. Then I decided red works a lot better than the brown with a less opacity to darken it. So I'm using a spots brush. I increase the opacity and flow on it. And just going in and specifically painting those things in. The hard thing with these ones is trying to make it not look mechanic or machine generated. By that I mean some of the things kinda look they have a pattern or something, so try to break in those patterns and not have things either forming a triangular shape or a square shaped. With also that I'm changing my opacity and my brush size with every different spots, also to break up that machine generated feel. Then I applied a blur and a warp to break it down more. I added in one more red layer for a different kind of spots. They will be almost same, but I wanted more variations. That's why I created another layer for it. So by this point, what I felt is the cheeks were getting a bit too orangish. And the neck had too many vein kind of looking red areas, which I will be changing just now. Adding more red in our ears. I got rid of my AO layers so I can see properly where I'm painting. So I wanted to add a bit vein-ish. Not a bit, but I wanted to add the vein looks inside my cheeks and nose and where the blood flow is. So I took my cotton brush, I decreased its intensity. So I had less alpha and I was just tapping it in to get a bit vein kind of look. Adding a little more. I'm blurring it a bit so it's not completely hard surface looking. Not hard surface, but with hard angles. So finding in the layer around the neck and getting rid of it so it does not look unnatural. So right now I'm adding in the stubbles. For that I'm using a spot spray brush. I played with the setting till I found something good, and I'm spraying those brushes everywhere right now instead of worrying about the border, because they kinda sprays everywhere. That's what it is in their property. But after some time you will see me come with a cotton brush or a dirt brush cleaning those areas up where there's an extra splatter with those guys. So cleaning up those things. And I will be applying a blur directional which blurs your things in a direction as the name suggests. And I will blur those guys down in the downwards direction. I'm adding one more layer with the same mask, but blurring this down a little without any direction and decreasing the opacity. So I have darker variation which blurs down to a subtle transition. Just cleaning in some of the stubbles. So right now I'm using my cavity map to get some pore informations. One thing to keep in mind while using pores and darkening that as red. So we are doing this to match our displacement pore values with our colored pore values. I moved on to using this in my shader as much as I can to enhance the pores. We are going to use cavity map in our specular as well. But right now try to keep that as minimum as possible. The only reason we are adding that in substance right now is to get the subsurface feeling of our face. Now I was using my cavity map, not my cavity, my curvature map, because it had better wrinkle. By that I mean it had better mask around the wrinkles. So I'm using that to extract my wrinkles. I applied a paint and multiplied it. So everywhere I paint white, it's going to showcase my curvature map. So I'm painting in the wrinkles and darkening them a bit. I will add an anchor point because we are going to use this mask to get those yellow areas around the wrinkles. So I'm just blurring it, leveling it to get it back, and multiplying our original wrinkle mask again. Same thing we did in the robot for our metal piece, and coloring that a bit golden yellowish, decreasing it so we have that yellow transition from wrinkles to skin. In some places I felt it was a bit too intense, so I got rid of that. And in some places I felt I can add that more, so I just went in and added that. Since we used anchor point, the same thing follows in our yellow layer. Just trying to keep it subtle instead of a bit harsh. Just naming my things. This file will be provided to you guys, so you can dissect it and figure out how I have constructed things. Darkening my nose a bit more because I like the nose to be a bit reddish. So this is where I'll be finalizing my skin for this week. We will be working more on it next week, but this is how far I'm getting this time. I'm just changing some hue and saturation through a HSL perceptive layer. I added in color correct, but I got rid of that because HSL was giving me better result. I wanted it to look a bit desaturated and a bit pinkish. To finalize it, I'm adding a blue layer and painting those areas in my veins of the forehead. You can paint in your own veins, but I usually like to have that in my sculpt and in my textures as well. So this is it for this week. This is how far we are gonna get. In the end, I just multiplied my AO around the nose because real-time engines kinda don't calculate inside of the nose that well. So I multiply a bit of black to give it more grounded look. Alright, so this is it for this week. This is how far you guys should be. And just changing some lights, I guess, before calling it done.